Welcome to episode number 4, and I'm going to be starting to create a new spawn point for supply trains. So what I'm doing here now is just creating a new spawn point in my spreadsheet, and I'm going to start it with an underscore and then IND for industry. Now let's put the spawn point in. Save it. Then I'll just overwrite my world save. And I got to go back to the main menu and then launch it again. All right, now we're back at Seligman. And then if I go back into the spawn points, so I put the underscore so that it would automatically, because it's sorted alphabetically, so it would automatically like underscore or 0, that like puts stuff at the top. So, and then IND for industry. And then now it says East Seligman, Main 2 westbound. But this gives me the ability, what I'm going to do here is I'm only going to add mixed freight symbols into this spawn point. And what it gives me the ability to do is use this slider to turn it on and off. And I'll get into more why I want to be able to do that easily in the as we move on. But in a nutshell, there's times where you're kind of managing the railroad and telling AI trains what to do and maybe moving your own train. But then if you hop in a train to drive 5 hours across the map, you're going to have your train yards just get loaded up with tagged trains because of all that time that went by, and you're just driving a train, not doing anything else. And it's going to get all jammed up. So like what I'll do a lot of times is if I'm going to drive a train across the map or work a local that's going to take 12 hours or 8 hours, I'll just come in here and slide these to the left. So now it's going to keep spawning the traffic, all these tags that are just going to go across the map, but it won't send anything into my train yards while I'm busy with something else. Or you can have it keep going, but just put it like right here. So it very rarely will spawn. So it just gives you a fine tuning of your supply trains coming in. So now what I want to do is I want to take the symbols from here, East Seligman, Main 2 westbound. I want to take these mixed freight symbols and I want to bring these over to I'm going to take them out of here because I want these to be tagged, but I want them on that other spawn point so I can control it. Let's see. These are all H tags. So what I can do here is just, because you can't really like grab them all at once. Actually, no, wait a minute. What am I talking about? I'm just going to paste the whole thing over. Oh, shoot. I can paste the whole thing over, but then I guess that's going to take some work too, because then I would have to delete all these out of here. So I think what I'm going to do in this case is just manually put them in. So let's go to, let's see, was there 6 mixed freight? So we got these 6. Let me go to my spreadsheet for BNSF symbols. I'm going to filter by train type. So I just want the H series manifest. And then I'm going to look for the blue ones. And I want to find the ones that are going to Barstow. So we got all these. And then the ones here that I marked for Seligman spawn point. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. There should be one more, because I got 6 in there. Oh, there's 5. What am I talking about? I got to learn how to count up here. So oh, geez, that's embarrassing. All right, so then over here, I'm going to filter by just Seligman. So now we got a clear shot here. These are the ones that I'm going to pull out of here. So I'm going to delete them out of the standard one because I don't want any. What? Oh, I must have had them all selected and then hit delete. I don't even know if I've ever done that. I've always deleted them one at a time. But I guess that worked great because that's what we wanted. Everything else is still here, right? Yeah. All right, so mixed freight. I got this zeroed out, and there's nothing in there, so that's good. Now I'm going to go to the new spawn point, the industry spawn point here. Train types, mixed freight, and I'm going to add 5. And then I'll go to the spreadsheet and we'll start with the first one, copy and paste it into there. And then we've got, I'm going to go no DPUs because sometimes for the supply chain trains, it makes it easier. They'll be shorter and it makes it easier to deal with in the yard because you don't have to take the DPUs off. We don't need to do anything here because it's just going from Seligman to, or even if you had needles coming out of needles, it's going to Barstow. So you're not dealing with any of that. And for this one, I just do these random, like I'll maybe do those two and then once in a while throw in something else. So this is a 9. So I'm going to change the priority to King of the Rails. And now we're going to do tag for industries. So we're clicking yes. And now notice this grays out. If I click no, see how I can type in here? But if I click yes, I can't do anything in here now. So now what I need to do is I need to choose the industries that I want to show up, or the freight cars for which industry that I want to show up on this supply train. And this is where it gets a little crazy in Southern California, especially if you have all the DLC, because look at all these different locals. There's just so many. And you look at this and it's like, well, which one is for BNSF and which ones are Union Pacific and all that kind of stuff. So what I did is I went to the depot website and up here under reference, I went to the yard and customer tags. And then under Southern California here, I did sort by local, and you can actually select this whole thing here and you can copy it. And I brought it into a spreadsheet and I condensed all this information down to this spreadsheet here. So I've got the local name or the local symbol on this column, and then the yard these freight cars need to get to so that the local job can be run, and then the railroad that it's a part of. So if I scroll down, you'll see we got the MET, Modesto and Empire Traction, SJVR, and then all the UPs down here. But if you just have the base game, you only have a few of these. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go serve by yard, and I'm going to filter. All we have in the base game is Bakersfield, UP and BNSF Bakersfield, Barstow, and Mojave. So if I do that, now you can see this is all we got. And then I can narrow this down further because you do have access to the Mojave yard, but that's Union Pacific. And if you only have the base game, you don't have the West Colton yard to be doing sorting over the hump. So you could do flat switching, but these wouldn't come in on a BNSF supply train. You could have a UP supply train come in, but it would likely go to West Colton. So we're just going to keep it simple to start. So what I'm going to do is uncheck Mojave. We won't do that. And then this SJVR, this one is even though it works out of the BNSF Bakersfield yard, you don't have this add-on for SJVR. So we're going to ignore that one. So now we've only got these. What is this here? 6. So I'll go back into run 8, and we've got 16 trains in here now. So the map is filling up. But I'll go into AI traffic generation, spawn points, and then under this new industry tagged supply train spawn point here at the top. And now I've added the other 4 symbols. So we got the 5 total here these are all going to be supply trains. And we're going to just do this first symbol, Belen, New Mexico to Barstow. And I'm going to pull up my spreadsheet here and I'll make it stay on the top of the screen. Put it over here to the side. So now I can see I'm just going to check. What I did is I condensed down all the data to the base game, and these 3 that I made blue are the only locals that we can do here with the base game. The other ones you'd need additional DLC. So just to keep things simple to start and make sure we got things dialed in, we're going to start with these 3. So I just need to check LCal 0103 and LCal 0611 and LCal 1161. So when this train spawns, it's only going to be these 3 local jobs on that train. So now all I have to do, because the rest of this is all configured here, is just hit spawn now, and we got this one selected over here. So that's the one that's going to spawn. Now we could just let the AI run, just let the game run, and eventually this train would pop in. But for the demo here, I want to show you, I'm going to hit the button to make it happen right now. So here's our train, and you can see by looking at I turned the tags on, we've got LCAL 0103, and then the next 3 letters are letting you know what industry this has to go to. So these BOR for boron. Let's see what else we got over here. A lot of boron. Alon West, I think this is. This is the one that goes, I think, up to Bakersfield. LCAL 0103. A couple more boron. So you can see that this is a mixed manifest train. Everything's tagged for industries now, just for the 3 local jobs that I checked off. And it's a big train. And that's one thing people kind of gripe about sometimes, is when you're making these local trains or supply trains within Run 8, you can't really dial in the length unless you create a spawn point closer to the edge of the track, which limits the length of the train when it spawns in. That works. But otherwise, you're kind of getting a long train coming into your yard every time when it's a supply train. But I do have other great solutions to fix that, which we'll talk about later. I just want to pause here real quick because I noticed, look at how good those new clouds look. They haven't really mentioned anything about clouds to my knowledge, but that's definitely new. They must be updating them, because it's just those light, faint, kind of wispy clouds in the sky. I've never seen that in Run 8. I just noticed when making this video, but I think it looks fantastic. So for now, this train's going to leave Seligman here, and it's going to go all the way to Barstow Yard. So here's our train coming into Barstow Yard right now. And I sped this part up a little bit here just to keep things moving along. So our train just came to a stop, and I have to make sure I'm not in control of any trains. And now that I'm in control of this one, what I want to do here is I open the train maker upper with Control F1, and I'm going to hit clear to clear out what was in there. And then I'm going to hit copy player train at the top right so that it copies this train into here. And I'm going to show you why later. So now to get this train to go over the hump, I need to modify the symbol here, and I'm going to erase it and type in hump. And you can use uppercase, lowercase, and you could even have other words or text in there. You just have to have the word hump in there somewhere, and it has to be separated by a space. So you could type in like Barstow space hump. Before you AI recrew the train to go over the hump, you have to align the tracks to the hump. So you right click to make it blue, and then left click to flip the switch. And you can see there that track just switched over. So now he's lined straight to go over this hump. Now I'm going to head over to the hump controller, and you got to be right next to it or very close. And then I'm going to open it up, and you can see the status at the top says disabled, which is okay. And we got the only one configuration in there. You can have multiple, but we're only running this one from the Depot Plus that we just downloaded the other day. So now all I need to do is go back to this lead locomotive that's already tagged with hump in the train symbol section. And I can just hit AI recrew, and he's going to start pushing back over the hump. And we've already got the tracks lined correctly, so we'll go there. If the tracks are not lined correctly, he's going to just start going backwards, and he's going to go the wrong way, basically, around the hump. So you got to make sure you got your tracks lined for him to get to the hump. You can see we got a crew in there already, and he's going to start pushing back here any second. And there he goes. And I sped this up quite a bit because it takes a while. You can see that other train going by in the background. That's pretty cool. So he's doing all this automatically, and the hump controller is going to separate these cars down these tracks based on the tags of each car and based on what is programmed into that hump configuration. So the configuration, the hump controller is going to look at that configuration, and it's going to say, all right, does this next car have a tag that matches one of the tracks in this configuration? And then it'll send it down that appropriate track. But you might be noticing that we got an issue here because most of the cars keep going down track 1, and a few of them in the distance went down the other track, 26. And now the train just stopped because track 1's already full, and you can see in the top left, there's the error, hump controller shut off, and it relinquished the AI control of that train. So let's go take a look and see what's going on over here. If I turn the tags on, these are all tagged for 1161 and 0611. So that's wrong because we don't want them all to be on the same track. And then over here, these are also 1161s, but these are all Phoenix. So let's go back over to the hump controller. And now over here, if you run into this situation where you got a train that stopped and relinquished because the bowl got full, a track got full, one of the easiest things to do is just relinquish any train you were in control of. And then get in control of this train, erase hump from the train symbol. You could just leave it blank, but just make sure hump's not in there. And then hit AI recrew. And what that's going to do is automatically get all the air hoses hooked up because you get into a mess when you take control of that relinquished train because all the air hoses were undone and the train cars were bled and you got to fix all that. Probably hitting F7 is the fastest way. But if you just do what I did and you just erase hump from the symbol and then AI recrew it, the AI will take it forward. And then once it's up like this, just off that hump, you can click the train car and hit stop and hold position, and then you can hit relinquish like I did up there in the top right. So now he's going to slow it down, and when it comes to a stop, he's going to relinquish again. So right there. Now I just deleted it because we don't need that one anymore. But if you were going to obviously keep it, you would get your situation here fixed, and then you can reset them again to go start pushing over the hump. So now you'll see here, track 1 says slough. And what that means is if any of the freight cars have a tag that does not match any of the tags in this hump config we're looking at, the hump controller is just going to automatically route them down to track 1. And that's what happened here. That's why everything went to track 1, because the only cars in our entire train that had something matching the config here was the cars that ended in PHX. And you can have multiple words in here separated by a space. So that's the case on, well, actually, no, on track, if you scroll down to track 26, that track is tagged PHX. And those freight cars that went down that track had the local symbol, a space, and then PHX. So if we scroll down here, see the PHX there? So that's what the hump controller saw, and that's why it sent them down there. But tracks 24 and 25 have 0611 and 1161. That's where we wanted them to go. But that doesn't match what's on the cars, which is LCal 0611 or LCal 1161. So we need to fix these two. So I'm going to go back to that spreadsheet, and I'm going to copy the local symbol out of here, the full symbol, which is on these freight car tags. And then I'm going to paste it onto these tracks. So this one's going to go, see, now that's how it should be, because it has to match what's on the freight car. Now you can customize this however you want. So like what was in there would work if we just changed the industry config so that that's what was on the freight cars, or re-tagged them in the yard. But for this case, we just want to keep it simple. And I'm also going to rename the configuration here because now we're making it custom. And then once I have it finished, I can hit save to disk there at the top, and that will save. It'll overwrite the hump file that's on my hard drive with this new data. Or you can make a new one. You can have multiple. You could have a lot of different hump configs. So now we got one other one, this LCal0103. And I noticed this one is not even in here at all. There's not even a 0103, and it's for BNSF Bakersfield Yard. So maybe on the depot, they just run that past and they don't sort it here, and they flat switch it up there. I'm not sure. But I'm just going to put it in one of these overflow tracks, track 7. And then I'll hit save again. So we've got that config now updated and saved. And now I'm going to show you. So this is why I'm going to redo this again to demonstrate. And that's why I had opened up the train maker upper, or the consist editor, and I had copied the player train. So now it's still there. Otherwise, if I deleted it, it would just be gone. So now it's still there. Now I can hit place, and I can drop it back in here and repeat this process. But now we have the hump controller set up correctly with tags matching the tags on these cars. So again, I have it on a different track. So I have to right click to turn it blue, then left click to switch it. And that's because auto's turned on. So you have to do it this way with him on. And now I've got it routed correctly to the hump. So we're ready to go. I just need to fix the tag on the lead. Change that back to has to have hump in the tag. And then I can hit AI recrew. And you can also do this manually. You can manually drive the train over the hump. I don't know if I've ever actually done it. I always just have the AI do it. So I'm just double checking here that we got the 3 tags. So we got track 7, 24, and 25. And PHX is still track 26. But we're not going to see any cars go down track 26 for PHX. And the reason is because the controller is looking at the first block of text to see if that matches. And in this case, now it does, which is was track, I think, 24, 25 matches LCal 1161. So it sees that first and it says, oh, okay, well, let's send it down that track and not the PHX track. So now it looks like everything's working correctly. You could see the cars going down both tracks 24 and 25. And that's what we wanted. That's how we programmed it in. Nothing's going over to that number 1 slough track because now it's seeing all these tags are matching. And then there's a few cars going for that other one that we set for track 7. But most of everything is going down track 24, 25. And we could, again, you can customize this however you want. So you could assign the tracks however you want to do it. And again, we filled up track 24. So it shut off the hump controller and AI relinquished. So let's take a look at what we got here. So these are all LCal 1161, and we got Phoenix, but we also got NEW for Newberry and TET. So it's all the same local on that track, but there's different industries to service. And then here we got the 0611s, and it looks like these are all for boron. Then over here, we've got the LCal 0103 going up to Bakersfield. So now what I'm going to do is drop down a couple of SD40-2s over here for yard switchers. And then I can back up and I can pull that cut for the LCal 0611 local. And then I have a choice because it's not blocked very well. So I can either pull it out and flat switch it on any of the open track sections over here in the yard, or even in the hump bowl itself. Or I can send it as it is to Boron, and then the crew that's working the local job, which would be you if you're playing single player, would have to do the flat switching at the actual industry, which is Boron, and do it there, and it would take a while. Or you can have multiple hump configurations, so you could actually back this train up again and push it into the receiving yard where we just were with it, with the big train, and then change your hump configuration to the one that's set up to handle this local job, and then send it over the hump again. This one cut, and then that would sort it into the different 3 different cars: box cars, acid tankers, and covered hoppers. And then you'd trim the bowl here again, and you'd build that local train, and they'd be blocked the right way. So there's multiple ways that you can go about it. As you can see from this video, it's actually really easy to send a train over the hump with AI and have the cars sorted based on that hump config once you have it set up correctly. However, once you have multiple supply trains spawning in regularly as you play, and they're all tagged for different industries throughout the map, the receiving yard and the hump bowl can get really confusing and congested, and it's very easy for a new player to get overwhelmed by everything going on and trying to figure it all out. And that's why I think it's actually best to put the hump and the sorting on hold for now. And in the next episode, I'm going to show you how I like to build local trains and get my industries configured. So hopefully I can inspire you with some of the new things I've got to show you in the next episode. And remember, you can do whatever you want in Run 8. You can run it exactly how you want. So my goal here is just to provide inspiration and a guide, and then hopefully it'll spark some ideas, and you'll say, oh yeah, I'd love to do it this way, or maybe yeah, I could do it that way on my map. And that's the fun part about single player. If you're finding all this very overwhelming and you'd rather just log in and have everything organized already and just drive the trains, you can do that in single player, but that's where multiplayer online is actually the best. And then I would highly recommend joining a server like the Mateo server or the Depot Plus. And the Lazy Farmer might be one of the best servers for beginning players to learn how to drive trains and play in a multiplayer environment. But if you're like me, I really enjoy all the configuring and building up the world and seeing it start from nothing and constantly coming up with new ideas and ways to make it better or more efficient. So stay tuned for episode number 5, and we'll be talking about building local trains.